Hello students, I welcome you all to Obstetrics and Gynecology with Mackler. So in this module, in Gynecology, we are going to discuss about cervix, right? So from this module onwards, we are going to discuss about cervix. So the starting module is all about the anatomy of the cervix. So once you get to know about the anatomy of the cervix, further you will be learning much about what are the pathology happening in the cervix, right? And what are the different gynecological procedures which are performed in the cervix, following which we will be coming to know about the cancer cervix. So the cancer cervix is going to be the last part of cervix discussion, but starting now is all about the anatomy of the cervix. Okay, so what is the cervix? So we all know that in the internal female genital organs, we know that we have the uterus with the uterine cavity, the myometrium, the muscular layer of the uterus, we have the fallopian tube, and below the uterine cavity, we have a fibromuscular part. And this fibromuscular part, which I have marked here, is the cervix, right? So cervix is the lower fibromuscular part of the uterus. Now, what is the dimension? So it is actually 3 to 4 centimeter in length, and it is going to be 2.5 centimeter in diameter. So the normal length of the cervix is 3 to 4 centimeter, and the diameter of the cervix is around 2.5 centimeter, right? Okay, so now coming to the size and the shape of the cervix. See, we all know that in every single female, as she is going to undergo different stages of development in her life, there are going to be certain hormonal changes happening in her body. So because of these hormonal changes, there are going to be various different kinds of changes happening in her female internal reproductive organs. Similarly, the size and the shape of the cervix is not going to be constant in any female. It is going to undergo various changes as the female is going to enter puberty, reproductive age group, menopause, after menopause. So during each stage of her life, the shape and the size of the cervix is going to get altered. So all you need to learn here is the cervix is the lower fibromuscular part of the uterus. It is about 3 to 4 centimeter in length and 2.5 centimeter in diameter. And the size and the shape of the cervix is not constant. It is going to get varied according to the age of the female, the parity of the female, and the menstrual status of the female. So once she is going to age, right? So she's going to become 20 to 30, and she's going to become 40, 50. So once she is going to attain menopause, through all these stages, the size and the shape of the cervix is going to get altered. Similarly, if she is a multiparous female or a grand multiparous female or a nulliparous female, in all these females, the size and the shape of the cervix is going to get altered. Is that clear? Okay. Similarly, the menstrual status of a female during puberty, the size and the shape of the cervix is going to be different. During her reproductive life, it is going to be different. And once she is going to attain menopause, the size and the shape of the cervix is going to get differed. So this is all about the cervix, right? So now getting into the details of the cervix, we have two things. You need to remember two things as cervix is concerned. The two things are, one is the exocervix, also known as the ectocervix, and the endocervix. Is that clear? Shall I write here? Yes. So as you can see here, it is known as exocervix or ectocervix and endocervix, right? Okay. So what is the exocervix and what is this endocervix? Why it is called as exo and why it is called as endo? So exocervix is the visible portion of the cervix. Now you may ask me how it is the visible portion of the cervix. So whenever a female is going to come to you, you are going to perform some per speculum examination, right? So when you are going to put the speculum and examine in that female, the visible portion of the cervix is the exocervix or the exocervix or the ectocervix. Let me show you in a schematical diagram, right? So if this is going to be the vagina, right? This is going to be the vagina, and you're going to insert the speculum here. So if you're going to insert the speculum here, the part of the cervix which you're going to see here, this is the exocervix or the ectocervix. The inside portion of the cervix is called as the endocervix. Is that clear? Yes. Okay. So as you can see in this image, the visible portion of the cervix, which I am sharing it in blue, this is the exocervix or the ectocervix. The inside portion of the cervix, which we can't see on perspeculum examination, is the endocervix. Is that clear? Yes. So now getting into the details of exocervix and endocervix. Exocervix is the visible portion of the cervix. Yes, agreed. Okay. And what is the color of this exocervix? The exocervix is going to be pink in color. So the visible portion of the cervix, which is going to be pink in color, is the exocervix or the ectocervix. Now, what is the lining of this exocervix or the ectocervix? It is actually lined by the stratified squamous epithelium. Please remember this point. Exocervix or the ectocervix is lined by the stratified squamous epithelium. And what are the layers of this exocervix? It is going to be multiple layers, right? So it is going to contain some superficial layer, it is going to have some intermediate layer, and that's going to be a basal layer, and all these layers is going to contain glycogen. Is that clear? Yes. So exocervix is the visible portion of the cervix. It is going to be pink in color. It is lined by stratified squamous epithelium, and it is not a single layer, it is a multiple layer. Exocervix contains multiple layers: superficial layer, intermediate layer, basal layer, and all these layers is going to contain glycogen. Is that clear? Yes. So this point is very important because once we'll be discussing some test called as via villi. Okay, while discussing about that test, I will get to this point of glycogen. Just remember that exocervix has multiple layers and these layer contains glycogen. Is that right? Okay. Now what about endocervix? So the endocervix is the invisible portion. So when you do the perfectum examination, the part of the cervix which is going to be visible is the exocervix. The part of the cervix which is not going to be visible to you on perfectum examination is the endocervix. So the agreed point is that it is the invisible portion. Yes, and the color is going to be red in color, whereas the exocervix or the ectocervix is pink in color, the endocervix is red in color. And the endocervix is lined by columnar epithelium, right? Endocervix is lined by columnar epithelium, whereas on the contrary, the ectocervix or the exocervix is lined by the stratified squamous epithelium. And unlike the exocervix, endocervix is only a single layer of cells. It doesn't contain any multiple layer of cells. Endocervix contains single layer of cells, whereas exocervix contains multiple layers: superficial, intermediate, basal, and all these layers are rich in glycogen. Is that clear? Yes. So this is all about the exocervix and the ectocervix. Now, there are still certain points which you need to discuss here in cervix, right? So what are those? So the portion you can see here, right, between the uterine cavity and the endocervix, there is an opening or an orifice. This is the internal orifice. It is called as internal orifice because it is situated internally. So because of that reason, it is called as internal orifice. Similarly, the portion of the cervix, which you can see here, right? So between the exocervix and the endocervix, there is an orifice, and that is called as the external orifice. Is that clear? Yes. So external orifice is the orifice which is visible externally, and internal orifice is the orifice which is situated internally. Is that clear, students? Yes. So when you do the perspeculum examination, you will be seeing the exocervix and you can see the external orifice, but the internal orifice is situated inside, right? Okay. Now let me discuss about something more important, that is called as squamo-columnar junction. Now what is squamo-columnar junction? As the name signifies, it is the junction between the squamous epithelium of the exocervix and the columnar epithelium of the endocervix. So as we have discussed here, let me have a quick gist of whatever we have marked until now, right? So that you might have a clear discussion here. Yes. This part is the exocervix. The part which is visible externally is the exocervix, and the orifice which is situated externally is the external orifice. After the external orifice, we have the endocervix. The inside portion is called as the endocervix. And between the uterine cavity and the endocervix, we have the internal os. So the internal os is situated internally and we can't visualize it, whereas the external orifice or the external os is situated outside and it is visible. So when you do the perspective examination, you will get an image something like this. So this is the exocervix, and this portion is the external orifice or the external os, whereas this portion is the internal os. Is that clear? Yes. Now, what is squamo-columnar junction? So as we have discussed, it is the junction between the squamous epithelium of the exocervix and the columnar epithelium of the endocervix. Let me show you here, right? So this is the external os, which you can see here, and this is the internal os, which is situated between the uterine cavity and the endocervix, whereas the external os is visible externally, right? Okay. And we have learned that exocervix is pink in color and endocervix is red in color. So the structure which is pink in color here is the exocervix, and the structure which is red in color here is the endocervix. Exocervix is lined by stratified squamous epithelium, endocervix is lined by columnar epithelium. So now can someone tell me what is the junction between the exocervix and the endocervix? The pink color portion is here, the red color portion is here, and this is the border or the junction between the two. This is the squamo-columnar junction. So this is the junction between the squamous epithelium of the exocervix and the columnar epithelium of the endocervix. So that is called as the squamo-columnar junction. And here I have to mention a thing that squamo-columnar junction is actually two types. Okay, it can be a original squamo-columnar junction and it can be a new squamo-columnar junction. What is this original and new squamo-columnar junction? Original squamo-columnar junction is originally present. It means that the exocervix is present until here. The endocervix starts from here. So this is originally situated. Originally, this is the border between the exocervix and the endocervix. Then what is this new squamo-columnar junction? New squamo-columnar junction is nothing but where the columnar epithelium of the endocervix is replaced by the squamous epithelium of the exocervix. As you can see here, the pinkish epithelium, the squamous epithelium of the exocervix, it recedes back, right? Can you see here? It recedes back. So since the columnar epithelium of the endocervix is replaced by the squamous epithelium, pinkish epithelium of the exocervix, therefore the squamo-columnar junction is going to get altered. It is going to be received back inside from the original squamo-columnar junction. Let's say, for example, if this was the original squamo-columnar junction, now it is going to get received back as the columnar epithelium of the endocervix is going to be replaced by the squamous epithelium of the exocervix. Therefore, this part is going to be the new squamo-columnar junction. Now, you may have the question that what is this new squamo-columnar junction? Why is this happening in a female? Is this normal or is this abnormal? So if you ask me, there are two distinctions, right? This is a normal physiological phenomenon, but at the same time, if there is going to be some pathology, it is a pathological phenomenon, right? So what is the difference between these two is that whenever a female is going to experience puberty, when she enters a reproductive age group, and when she is going to attain menopause, as I told you earlier, that the size and the shape of the cervix is going to undergo various alteration. Similarly, the squamo-columnar junction is going to recede back. It is going to come in front. It is going to be recede back inside the uterine cavity through different stages of life of a female, and all this happens because of the hormonal changes. So because of the hormonal changes, the squamo-columnar junction can get altered throughout the life of a female. So because of that reason, there can be new squamo-columnar junction. Now, what is this process called as? I told you that the columnar epithelium of the endocervix is replaced by the squamous epithelium of the exocervix or the ectocervix. So I have discussed earlier that if one type of epithelium is going to get converted into another type of epithelium, it is called as metaplasia. Is that clear? One type of epithelium is going to get converted into another type of epithelium. It is called as metaplasia. Right? Okay. Now you tell me what epithelium is going to get converted into what epithelium? Columnar epithelium is getting converted into squamous epithelium. So squamous epithelium is the major. So therefore it is called as squamous metaplasia. So this process is called as squamous metaplasia, and this squamous metaplasia is a physiological phenomenon in every single female, because as she is going to undergo puberty, reproduction, menopause, there is going to be various hormonal alterations happening in her. So because of these hormonal alterations, squamous metaplasia is going to happen in her physiologically, and new squamocolumnar junction is going to get formed from the original squamocolumnar junction. So all these are the physiological phenomenon. But if this is going to happen in a very hastened manner, very faster manner, that all the columnar epithelium is getting converted into squamous metaplasia in a pathological manner, it is going to result in a condition called as cancer cervix. Is that clear? Cancer cervix is nothing but where the columnar epithelium is getting converted into the squamous epithelium of the exocervix, where the new transformation zone is the most common site of the cancer cervix. This is because of the squamous metaplasia. So squamous metaplasia is a very important risk factor for cancer cervix. Cancer cervix occurs more commonly in the transformation zone. Right? We have discussed about the transformation zone, which is the squamocolumnar junction. Squamocolumnar junction is the transformation zone. Right? So we know that we have the original squamocolumnar junction and we have the new squamocolumnar junction. So between the original squamocolumnar junction and the new squamocolumnar junction, we have a space, and this is the transformation zone, because the transformation is happening from the squamocolumnar junction, which was originally situated and newly situated. So between the original and the new squamocolumnar junction, the zone which is present is called as the transformation zone, and this transformation zone is the most common site for cancer cervix. Right? So because of that reason, squamous metaplasia is a risk factor for cancer cervix. If the squamous metaplasia is going to happen in a physiological manner, it is going to result in no problem, because physiologically it happens in every other female. But if it occurs in a faster rate, in a hastened manner, it is going to result in cancer cervix. Right? So transformation zone, let me show you here. Right? So this was the original squamocolumnar junction. Now because of squamous metaplasia, it has receded further inside, and this is the new squamocolumnar junction. The portion between the original squamocolumnar junction and the new squamocolumnar junction, the entire portion is the transformation zone. So transformation zone is the zone between the original squamocolumnar junction and the new squamocolumnar junction, and this is the zone where most commonly cancer cervix happen. So if someone asks you, squamous metaplasia is normal or an abnormal phenomenon in cervix? Squamous metaplasia is a physiological phenomenon, because as the female is going to age, as she is going to undergo different stages of development in her life through puberty, reproduction and menopause, there is going to be squamous metaplasia which is happening in a physiological manner. But if it happens in a pathological manner, it is definitely going to get result in cancer cervix. Is that clear? And cancer cervix occurs most commonly in the transformation zone, which I have shared here. So this is all about the cervix, the parts of the cervix, the exocervix, the endocervix, right? The squamocolumnar junction, the original squamocolumnar junction, the new squamocolumnar junction, and the space between the original and the new squamocolumnar junction, which is called as the transformation zone. And transformation zone is the most common site for the cancer cervix. So this is all about the cervix, which we have discussed here in detail. In case if you have any doubt, please write to us in the Mackler handle. In the next module, we'll be discussing about the gynecological procedures which we will perform in the cervix. Right? Okay. Please keep studying, students. Let's meet in the next module.